Oh, snap. We're good. We're good. We doing it. Let's freaking go. Look at these icons. Beauty. Bam. It is time. It is time, folks. You spin my head right round when you go down, when you go down. You spin my head right. Damn, this song stuck in my head. We're doing the Hearty tier list. This is actually what I'm talking about. We're just gonna start. Looks like this is happening here. You spin my... This is a new template. This is looking really good. We're looking really fly. We're looking super fly. Here we go. Here we go. How far off the screen can I go here? That's pretty good, actually. You spin my head right... Do I look too white? That's not what I meant. I meant it's my... I turned up the lightness and I turned off the correction. It's probably good. Probably good. Cheesy. I look for it off. Y'all ready for this? Why is this tier white? Oh, it's racist! It must be! Fry's a white supremacist. It must be. That's the reason. Why else would he do... The heck of a... It's not nice. You spin my head right round. You spin my head right round. When you go down, when you go down. Only 200 viewers and the stream started? Let's just start, guys. There's no reason to screw around. Why would one screw around? Y'all ready for this? Y'all ready for this? What's going on, everybody? This is Fry. So today we are doing the Hearty class tier list. I'm so excited. Once again, we're going to be going through the cards just in order they are in the collection and rating them all the way from S tier, which is the highest, down to hot garbage, which means it should basically be deleted from the game because it's really, really stupid. Now, I'm going to be rating the cards as usual in terms of how useful they are in decks. So obviously being a strong card, will give it a lot of value. Being a very important part of a lot of decks, will give it value, and also just maybe being fun, we'll give a little points for that, etc. Now, if you guys have any more suggestions for tier lists, I am going to do all the classes, I'm going to do the heroes, don't worry about that. If you have any creative ideas, people have suggested I do a tribe tier list, like mushrooms, or I'll do like fun cards based on the criteria of how fun they are only, not based on how good they are. That will be a great idea for a tier list. Again, I'm not going to just go through the super rares or the legendaries in this game because they're already in the classes. I've already put those on tier lists. They're just going to end up in the same place as I put them before. So if you have any great ideas for new types of tier lists, new criteria, put those in the comment section below, and we are just going to start with Arm Wrestler. Now, I just want to give a shout out to one of the YouTube viewers who actually made this template special with very beautiful looking icons, as you can see here. The quality is definitely upgraded. That was Barry Bama, I believe his name was. So we'll see if we can get in touch, and maybe he'll make me the tier list in the future, because these sort of icons look really, really nice. And we are just going to start at the beginning of the Hearty class. And we are just going to start with Arm Wrestler. So Arm Wrestler is a decent card. This is overrated. Some people think this is just so OP. You can just leave this on the field as a 2-2. It's just as easily removable as any one-cost 2-2. This is very good in sports decks, basically sports decks only. You don't really want to be running Arm Wrestler in basically any other deck besides for that. And for that reason, it's useful in sports decks. It's not amazing. You don't even actually need it in sports decks because it is outclassed by Gladiator, which we'll have in just a few cards. So for that reason, I'm going to be putting this in C tier. Again, very good combination with Sumo, who can move a card into the Arm Wrestler that will make it into a 3-3. It works very well with Black Hole too, but again, to actually build a deck around that, it's probably not useful, except for in sports decks, because even in the Hearty class alone, there's actually some really, really good one-drops that we'll be getting to shortly. So that's why I'm putting this in C tier. Now, it happens to be this tier list for some reason did not include an icon for Arm Wrestler, so I'm just going to be leaving this right over here, and if I have to move it later, I'll move it. They'll just be floating around in no man's space. Here we go. So we're going to move on to Baseball Zombie. Baseball Zombie has such good sports synergy, and moving right along. Whee! Black Hole. Black Hole, I would say overall, per its cost, and the fact it's a zombie environment makes it the best overall environment in the game. Now, this isn't going to be taking over games. It doesn't have like that sort of win condition status, just like like Venus Flytrap playing. Like, it's not going to be doing that. It's not like Area 22 that it can be your sort of win condition for a deck, but it's never bad to have at least three copies of Black Hole in any Hearty deck. The amount this does for a one-cost card is just ridiculous. It affects all 5 lanes, which I think this might be the only environment that will affect it'll affect plans played anywhere because it sucks them in. It gives them -1 attack. It makes them more susceptible to Rolling Stone, Weed Spray, Hand of Devastation, all those knockout, whatever it's called, all those things. It gives you good trades. You can combine this with a lot of like useful things like Arm Wrestler or other things that just do work well when they're matched up against plans. Plus, it's just one cost. Being a one-cost environment just makes it so freaking good, especially as a zombie again, because the plants, when they play their environment, if you even have one brain left over, you can destroy their entire environment while putting a powerful one on the field yourself. Since this is overall, just in terms of what it does, the best environment in the game, this is going in S tier. It's never bad to have Black Hole in your deck. You could even craft, this could even be a legitimate craft if you run a lot of Hearty things, like after you have your more important cards like going viral, like we'll get to in a second. Like if you're running a lot of Hearty decks, this is actually a really good super rare to craft. It's really the only environment I would suggest like really investing in to craft that's like a super rare one. It's an expensive one. All right, so we are going to move right along. Let's go to Camel Cross. Camel Crossing, I used to think this card was a lot better. Adding a couple of health to your cards. This is a tempo card, which means this will keep your guys alive on the field. The problem with Camel Crossing is that it doesn't actually prevent your guys from dying the turn that it's played. Because if your opponent, you're going to play your zombies, and then the opponent has a chance to use their little small removal cards, your Banana Bomb, your Berry Blast. Camel Cross, the whole point is to make a guy not die to a small removal card, and they're usually going to be dead by the time you play Camel Crossing. Again, on the highest level of PvZ heroes, you're not going to have this relentless turn after turn of a bunch of your zombies matching up against your plants. Most decks do not rely on that, except for sports decks, and sports decks have a much better way of protecting their guys with Sports Coach, like we'll get to soon, than using Camel Cross. So you can use this together. This mostly is useful with like a Zookeeper. Zookeeper, of course, is this is a pet card, and that's the reason why you can actually, this is pretty useful with Zookeeper. Where's the Beastie class? So that is the 2-cost pet card, which again will grow all of your pets by 1 attack every single time you play a pet. So if you play Camel Cross, that'll buff up all your guys by 1. It'll give them extra health, which will prevent them from being field cleared. Again, your Zookeeper can very easily die even before you use the Camel Cross. It's not even that good of a strat. You can use this up with goats too to give this like a little extra health. So really, it's just like good with the smash. Giving this a lot of extra health will then make it every time it takes damage, it grows, and you'll get a lot more value than just 2 health usually from your Camel Cross. It doesn't prevent big removal. It's just a little sad and a little meh, and it's also circumstantial in the fact that you really need to have at least like 2 cards on the field for this to be worth it. Because if you only have 1 card on the field, it's just always better to have Hearty Treat, Healthy Treat, which is just gonna add way more stats. So because Camel Crossing, again, is very circumstantial, it is kind of good in pet decks. I'm kind of just going to put this in C tier. It's not a horrible card. It's not bad to have 1 or 2 of these in kind of any deck if you got to protect your guys, but it's really too circumstantial to be that good. I could almost put this in D tier. I'll put it in C. All right. So we're going to move right along to Genetic Experiment. This is a very, very good one-drop. This notably is very good in Flag Zombie decks, and I'm going to end up giving Flag Zombie a very high tier because of all the success we've been having in so many strategies. Just running Flag Zombie and a whole bunch of one-drops. Flag Zombies makes your zombies, of course, cost one less. And Genetic Experiment is a really, really good thing to combo with Flag Zombie because you're able to, it grows every turn. So really, again, it's very easy to remove sort of that first turn, but if this stays on the field, they're not going to be able to answer if you're swarming with just tons of one-drops. They're not going to have an answer to everything. So especially if you have a lot of other really good threats on the field, like Cheese Cutter, if it's the Smash, or you have teachers. There's a lot of really strong thready one drops, and this will just grow and grow and grow every single turn, and you're able to use bonus attacks and going viral to buff this up. This is a really very, very solid card. You don't really end up using this much in Science decks. The Science decks, the one drops, you want to be able to play a good one drop and then follow up with Drone Engineer. This just on turn 1 is very, very meta. You usually want to be playing this a little bit later. That's why it's much better with Flag Zombie than Drone Engineer. You could use this in a Science deck. It's not very good on turn 1. Better probably run some late game. Where are we going to put Genetic Experiment? I'm going to give it a... I don't think I can give this quite an A. Oh man, that's tough. I'm going to give it a B, because it is pretty, I would say pretty limited to just Flag Zombie decks. It's very solid in them. It's just overall a solid card. It's not going to, I don't think this really deserves actually be an A tier. Maybe I'll give it high B. Okay, moving right along, Healthy Tree. This is actually probably a much better card than what I use it, Like, this will prevent a guy from dying. Again, it doesn't prevent your guy from dying that turn, because they can always just get Berry Blast and small removal. So that's sort of the problem with Healthy Tree. Healthy Tree is just a really cheap tree. It's a really good way to like keep your teacher, your Zombaldi teacher on turn 1 alive. It's a good combination with Paparazzi if you're Rust Bolt, because that will grow the Paparazzi by a whole lot. You can use it with Cowboy, actually. I've had some success with Neptuna because that will turn into like a 4-8, which is just ridiculous. This is just like a lot of stats to add to a guy for a 1-drop. It's sort of like one of these jack-of-all-trade cards. I don't really know the deck that Healthy Treat is just like the most amazing card, but it's never bad to have a couple of these. I probably underuse Healthy Treat. I'm just going to put this in B because it is a really good card, but I don't know the actual deck where it's just like you need to be running it. And thank you so much, Pyro Blade. It doesn't seem like that subscription ring, but I don't know what the problem is. Anyway, thanks so much to, sorry, it's not Pyroblade, it's Pi Broda for subscribing. It doesn't look like the Streamlabs is activated. Maybe if I turn on this app, it'll work. All right, let's move right along to the Gladiator. Okay, here's Gladdy Daddy. Gladiator is a really, really good card. It's not just good in sports decks. It's a very good counter to a lot of aggro stress on the plant side. It's a direct counter to Astro Shroom or Cycle Cap. I mean, this is the main way you can play against any deck, again, that relies on doing a lot of direct damage to your opponent's face. Even against Dandelion King. Dandelion King, when played, it'll kill the Planetary Gladiator instead of doing 10 damage to your face. Very, very difficult card to remove for a 1-drop. Because of it has 4 health. It's just going to be absorbing a lot. You can use this combined with like Stompodon. Stompodon, we'll get to later, will be buffing up all your cards, and adding a lot of stats to even one Gladiator makes it just irreplaceable basically in Stompodon decks, because that will prevent you from dying. It's really just all around a good control card. It does have 1 damage non-bullseye, so it pings your opponent's block meter a lot and gives them that extra value, which definitely is a downside. I almost feel like as a 0-3 this might have been better. I don't know who in the chat is saying this is in C tier. This is either going in A or an S. Really hard to say. Man, that's tough. Is this good enough to be an S tier? This is a really hard decision. Very, very tough decision. It's not quite, is it good as Con Man? It's not as good as Con Man. Is it as good as Cheese Cutter? What the heck is going on? Get the heck out of here. Didn't want, that's probably, okay. I'm split. I'm very, very split about this. I think that because It's so good. It's good with Flag Zombie, but it's actually good in a lot of other decks. Plus, it's irreplaceable in sports decks. I'm actually going to put this in S tier. It's kind of never bad to have a couple of Gladiators in your Hearty decks, and it's maybe lowish S tier, but it's going in S tier. All right, here is Rolling Stone. Now, Rolling Stone is not as good as Bungee Plumber. Bungee Plumber does something to every plant on the field, unless it's Potatosaurus and Untriggable. Rolling Stone, here's the pros and cons of Rolling Stone and Bungee Plumber. Bungee Plumber, it can deal with Haunted Pumpkin. It can deal with really anything that they're going to be playing on turn 1, except for like Garlic, which you don't need an answer to. So Bungee Plumber is the better of the two cards. They're very comparable because they're both early game removal. Now, when it comes to 2-drop, so Rolling Stone is such a good answer to cards like Black Eyed Pea, Captain Cucumber, Picanolith. I mean, there are so many really Starch Lord, so many really powerful cards that Rolling Stone can deal with that Bungee Plumber barely even touches. Like, it, you know, reduces a couple of health. Obviously, Rolling Stone is really bad against anything that has 3 attack, 3 or more attacks. So, sort of in the late game, Rolling Stone becomes a lot worse. It's a very good early game card. And again, there are even some mid to late game cards like those pesky Black Eyed Peas and Captain Cucumbers and Picanolith that Rolling Stone really is good in the late game. Oh, I wonder if I should be putting this in S tier. I feel like I want to put this in A. Again, this is also not as good as Bungee Plumber because Bungee Plumber can proc your opponent's block. It can finish off your opponent for 2 damage. I think this is a solid A card. I don't know if it's S. I mean, maybe I should be putting this in S because in a Hearty, if you're running any Hearty deck, it's never bad to have a couple Rolling Stones. Having a couple Rolling Stones is always a good idea. It's an answer to Admiral Navy Bean. It's an answer to Lima Pleurodon. It's an answer to basically every problematic early game card. Like the real like no one runs 3-2. I guess Applesauce here doesn't answer Haunted Pumpkin. The only reason I'm putting it in A's, would put it in A's because of Haunted Pumpkin. Maybe this is S, though, because at the end of the day, listen, you're going to need to know, if you're a Hearty class, you're going to be weak to Haunted Pumpkin. That's fine, but you're still going to run some Rolling Stones, and even, because it's a really versatile card. For 1-cost card, I'm actually keeping that in S tier. I'm happy with that in S. All right. Here's Zombie Middle Manager. This is a very solid card. So the Professional Synergy is okay. I mean, this spawns another Professional Zombie. If you have several of these, it'll grow. You can use this as a pretty good upgrade for like Fossil Head, which is not the best strategy in the game. Jurassic Fossil Head is not one of the better cards in the game, even though it is a decent card. The main thing about this is that it's a 1-drop. It has the potential to grow, so it has potential to be a threat, and it conjures you a Professional. Having a 1-cost zombie that instantaneously triggers Dino Roars is probably the most useful reason for this card. Just combining this with, let's say, Stompidon. On turn 5, every Stompidon deck, you got to run 4 Middle Managers because you have... because this will just trigger that Stompidon. If the Stompidon gets removed, fine. You still got some value and your hands is still buffed up. And if your Stompidon lives and you're able to play, Middle Manager and then other cards that conjure, it obviously will just ramp up your Dino Roars. It can be really used in that way with any dinosaur in the game. This is also very useful with Flag Zombie. Just Flag Zombie with a whole bunch of 1-drops. Middle Manager is always a good choice for that because, first of all, Flag Zombie is a professional card, so if that gets Berry Blast, this is now a 2-2. And again, it doesn't cost you a card. It's a 1-cost card that has okay stats. It's not bad, but it just gives you a free card. And again, the professional zombies, there's a couple of them that are really trash. Firefighter? I think Firefighter's professional, isn't he? I wouldn't know because I don't use this card. So obviously there are some extremely horrible trash cards that this can make, but most of them are fine. Mostly you're getting teachers, and yeah, even getting a janitor is not bad late in games. So I'm gonna be putting this in A or B. I can't say it's A. Well, mixed up Gravedigger. I don't know. Is this going A? Is it crazy to put this in A? It's always good in Flag Zombie decks. It's good in other decks. You got the Professional. It's either really low A or high B. Man, the Hearty class is really hard to rate here. I'm going to put it in high B tier. I think that it really does belong basically in the same thing as Genetic Experiment. It's about the same level of card. I could have put this in A because of the little synergies, but again, even combining with Stompidon, that's really only one very specific deck. Alright, B+. Next, we are going to go with the Teacher. So Zombology Teacher is... I have a hard time with this card. I used to really like Zombology Teacher when there was more card draw, because then you could make a miracle deck. I used to do with Rust Bolt, where you would have teleportation zombies and teleports, and you'd play a lot of you'd have access to the Brainy class with Rust Bolt. So then you'd be playing a lot of Leprechaun Imps, which are extremely nerfed almost to being unusable since they only give you the 1 pot of gold. If this was giving you several pots of gold, you could draw a lot more cards. Same thing with Regifter Zombie. This used to cost, Regifting Zombie used to cost 2, now it costs 3, so it makes it, again, a much less useful card for Miracle decks. The strat used to be to teleport in a bunch of teachers and then do a long series of going virals. And, you know, every single time, all your tricks cost less. So if you have 2 Zombology or 3 Zombology teachers on the field, you can just play going viral after going viral and just make an entire miracle. Very difficult combo to pull off. Now, I have found this useful in Flag Zombie decks because Flag Zombie with teachers actually allows you to play a treat. So if you, or like a Hearty treat or any kind of really superpower from mostly one of the superpowers in your arsenal, like Smash, you know, just anything that will add a little bit of health and protect one of your swarmy guys from dying that turn. So it is useful. The problem is, again, this 2/1, so it dies to really every removal card. If you play this on the field, let the plants react. Any Banana Bomb, Berry Blast, anything that does a little tiny bit of damage, even like Kernel Pult, will kill a Zombology Teacher before you're really able to activate its ability. It still is a decent card, though, and it still is worthy in Flag Zombie decks. It's worthy less so in Trickster decks. I'm just going to put this in B tier with everything else. I don't really think... Sometimes this is A tier. Sometimes this card just freaking takes over games, but it actually is unreliable, so therefore it's not the top tier of things to put in a deck. So that's why I'm putting it. I know this in certain decks this is an A, but overall in the game, because of... It actually is an unreliable card right now. I'll put it in B. If Miracle decks were still a thing, I would definitely be putting that in A. But unfortunately, they got rid of that. All right. Next, we're up to Bucket Bay. Guys, Cone Zone is such a great environment. It's 2 costs and it gives 3 health. What is this card? Guys, this is not a good card. This is not a good environment. I know we have the Bucket Bay meme. Maybe I'll upgrade it 1 tier for the... No, it's not. This is a hot piece of trash. I'm sorry, guys. This is the worst environment in the entire... This has got to be the worst environment in the game. Even for budget players. You don't have any environments. Just use Total Eclipse. Use something. This is a 2... Even if this was a 1-cost environment, it would not be that good. I'll tell you why. This doesn't give you any immediate value. Like... when you play this to protect one of your guys, once this is covered, the guy in there just dies. If zombies here get +3 and that wouldn't go away when the Cone Zone, let's say instead the text was zombies played into Cone Zone get a permanent buff of +3 health, and then when you remove the Cone Zone, at least the zombie still has the health. That would be great. You can just, whatever value this gave you preventing a zombie to die, just goes away when you actually cover the environment. This is a really horrible card. The only time you ever see Cone Zone is when you like randomly conjure it from, I don't know, from Dr. Spacetime. There's no this is such a flawed idea of a card. I'm so mad that they burned all. We're gonna get into Conehead Zombie. How they just like destroyed like the iconic PopCap Conehead has just been like such trash. Stupid hot garbage. Hate Bucket Bay. Bucket Bay's stupid. Next, Conehead. Again, this is the most iconic zombie in the entire Plants vs. Zombies franchise by far. Conehead was that magical guy in the original Plants vs. Zombies that first you're alone, you're just being attacked by regular zombies, and then you have this one that has this freaking cone on his head, and you're like, is that just a gimmick? And the cone is its armor. It actually like absorbs damage from the pea shooters, and you have to knock the cone head off of its head, and then you have to kill the zombie, and then it becomes a regular zombie. This, as just in terms of just the beauty and just like the marketing and just what this means to the franchise is so great. And in this game, this is a piece of garbage. This is a zombie which is a 2/3, like a plant that is a 2/3. It's a 2/2 with armor. I mean, just compare this to Juggernaut, which who the heck? What is even Juggernaut? It's like the upgrade of like Walnut in Plants vs. Zombies 2. This is, first of all, a plant is always better than a dry zombie, because Juggernaut can be placed either dry, and it's very hard to react to because the zombies then can only use tricks, or you can place this in front of something and get a good trade. You don't have that option with Conehead. Conehead, you just got to stick on the field, and then you're at the plant's mercy. They can remove it, they can decide to front it, they can decide to, hey, I just want this stupid piece of garbage to ping my block meter for the rest of the game, and it's just doing 2 damage for a 2-drop. It's just so freaking meh. This card is so meh. Now, back in the early PvZ Heroes, for those of you who have been around this game for like 3 or 4 years, I think this is 2016, this might even be pre-release, Conehead was a 2-cost 2/3 with 1 armor. And that was actually a really powerhouse of a stat card, because that you have basically it's better than a 2-cost 2/4. Having armor is better than 1 health usually, unless you get weed whacked, because if you have something, let's say 3 health and an armor, it'll usually take several shots to kill it. You're not going to be doing 1 shot of 4 damage to kill this thing, in which case it actually absorbs all that damage over time. Every single shot is reduced by 1, so it's really, having an armor is usually better than having 1 health. This was fine. I think this could have been, like, the Hearty class could have been like a nice tempo class. Right now the Hearty class is like sports, you got Flag Zombie, a couple things, not one of the greatest classes in the game. And if this had remained as a 2-cost 2/3 with armor, you have like this tempo strategy. You put a card on the field on turn 2 that is almost impossible to answer, it's impossible to trade with, then you start buffing it, then you use going viral, you use like field buffs. I feel like that could have been great. I don't know why they nerfed this card. It's been nerfed to extinction, and unfortunately, Conehead Zombie is actually not useful in any deck in the entire game, and it's going... I'm so sad. I'm so sad that they ruined this card. Making this back into a 2-cost 2/3 with armor, I think, would be a great idea. Alright, here's Escape Through Time. This actually used to cost 1, and as a 1-cost card, it was basically irreplaceable in every Hearty, any tempo deck. I mean, it was so good at just a really cheap way of making sure one of your zombies does not die again. It doesn't prevent it from getting removed by Berry Blast or Banana Bomb, because it is a trick, but it will protect it during the matchups. It's just so cheap. The cheapness of this card was its value. In fact, it conjures in their history card. History cards are actually a pretty good tribe. They're actually a very good tribe if you look at what all the history cards are in the game. We'll go through that when we get into the tribe tier list. So it will also give you a decent card, give you a Valak of Undying Pharaoh. There's actually a lot of really cool cards that you get from Escape Through Time. Now that this has been nerfed, they felt like aggro zombies were too much. They nerfed all the aggro zombies. I don't think Escape Through Time was the problem. It was really mostly Quick Draw Combat. This card at 2 is much less useful. It's really even hard to imagine which deck is like a great idea to run Escape Through Time. It's never bad in your tempo decks and the sports decks just to have like 1 or 2 of these. You don't want to be running too many, because again, it's very circumstantial, because you need to first of all have a zombie on the field that turn, so you're spending that, you're leaving over 2 brains, and then that zombie also has to not get removed, and it has to also not, like, even if you play a zombie on the field and they just put a plant in a different lane, your Escape Through Time is useless. You're spending 2 brains on protecting a guy that's not taking damage anyway. So it's so niche and so circumstantial. It's actually an extremely overrated card. For 2 cost, it's really, again, it's okay. It's just meh. I'm putting it in C tier. Alright, here's Flag Zombie. Flag Zombie has been around. This is probably, after Conehead, might be the most iconic plant, the most iconic zombie, because this leads the charge in the original Plants vs. Zombies before every big wave. Like in that one, this is accompanied by a whole bunch of cheap zombies. This will make all of your guys, again, it's a really good strategy to run Flag Zombie on turn 2. Past turn 1, play Flag Zombie to a whole bunch of 1-drops. They could be the teachers and the 1-drops that we have in the Hearty class, very good with the Beastie class. Then you're playing free cheese cutters onto the field. A lot of really cool strategies. And then if they don't remove the Flag Zombie, you can actually play a more expensive card, let's say a 4-cost card on turn 3, which is very good. So it gives you value over the course of several turns. Now, I really, when Flag Zombie came out, and this is a card, this has been around since the premium class, it's not really changed at all. I never really saw the value of Flag Zombie in set 1, because I always thought of it as a ramp card. It's a 2-cost card that now makes you able to play your 4-cost cards earlier. It's not the main part, because Flag Zombie gets removed too easily on turn 2. Any 3-attack plant, any berry blast, just any basic, if they have any, this very easy card, it's a pretty easy card to actually answer on turn 2. That's why getting immediate value out of this on turn 2 and playing a bunch of 1-drops is really the way to play Flag Zombie, and if this survives till the next turn and you get another more value out of it on turn 3, then that's great, but you shouldn't be relying on that. So I think one reason, first of all, I never thought of the idea of just Flag Zombie and a whole bunch of 1-drops. That was before the days of going viral, which really made that strategy viable because it gives you a really solid turn 3 play to actually buff up all those little tiny spam minions that are just sitting there, usually are very weak in attack relatively. So it's before going, I'm just explaining why I thought this was trash in set 1. I misunderstood its use. I was using it as a late game ramp card. There was no going viral, and really the 1-drops back in set 1 were not that great. Like, all the 1-drops that you're using this with, like, what did you have? Arm Wrestler? Gladiator was not around. Cheese Cutter was not around. All of these good 1-drops have been added either as event cards or in subsequent sets. So this really wouldn't have been a very good strategy in set 1. Right now, Flag Zombie is probably the best early game strategy on the highest level of the game for the Hearty class specifically. You can combine this with Neptuna, you have Pogo Mix Up Gravedigger afterwards. Really, you just put your Flag Zombie, a whole bunch of 1-drops, and then you do kind of whatever you want to do in the deck on turns 4 and 5. And the Flag Zombie is typically never going to mess this up. I almost might put this in S tier. This is either going in A or an S. I think because of how many decks this is actually useful in, it is a little, it's not that unreliable though. You need to get a whole bunch of 1-drops, so it's limited to that archetype. But because that archetype is never actually a bad idea, I'm actually putting Flag Zombie in S tier because, again, you need to be combining this with a whole bunch of 1-drops, but that is available for basically every single Hearty hero is going to have Quick Draw Conmans, just so many great 1-drops. And that early game strategy can really be combined with almost every single late game strategy in the game. And it's because of its usefulness, and it's never bad for the Hearty class to be running that strategy, and it is one of the better early game strats in the game. I'm actually putting this in S tier. I know this might be a little controversial. This could have been an A. I actually, again, since we're rating it not in terms of power, but in terms of usefulness in decks, in deck building, it does deserve to be an S tier. Alright, here's Gargologist. This is not as good as Flag Zombie, not even close. And the reason is very clear, because you don't get value from this the turn it's played. So it has the drawbacks of Flag Zombie, of being very easily removed when you just stick this onto the field on turn 2. And again, any 3-attack plant or Berry Blast removes this. But then it doesn't actually give you anything that turn. This needs to survive in order to get good value from it. Otherwise, it's a very sad 2-cost 2/3. You also need to build a deck around Gargologist. Running a lot of Gargantuars in a deck typically is not a very good strategy because they are also very easily removed, like Shamrocket. When we get into the Beastie class tier list, I'm going to emphasize this even more, but again, there's uses for some of the Gargantuars in the game, but most of the Gargantuars in PvZ Heroes cost 5 or more. They usually just have a lot of big stats. Of course, there's some exceptions, but most of the Gargantuars in this game are not very good cards. This only combines, so therefore this card only combines with a not good strategy. Now, the most reliable way to actually pull off Gargologist is with Rustbolt, where you teleport Gargologist on 3, where you teleportation Zombie on 2, Gargologist on 3, and then that will ensure that your Gargologist is not easily removed, and at least you'll get that initial value by getting one Gargantua. In that case, you get one Gargantua early, which again is good. Getting a big Garg, it still dies to even if you do that, that big Garg still dies to Shamrocket. But I guess if they Shamrocket that, they're not going to be able to deal usually with the Gargologist as well, so then you'll be able to get another piece of value. So that is a valuable strategy. You can find the the Gargologist decks I have with Rustbolt. You can find those on the channel. You can also maybe play like Black Hole on turn 1 and Gargologist on turn 2 in a different lane, and that will sort of protect it. That could work sometimes. Very unreliable to necessarily have Black Hole, like even when you're running 3 or 4 Black Holes, like to necessarily have both of these plus have a Garg is a very, very unreliable sort of combo to have on turns 1, 2, and 3. So, and either way, it still dies to Berry Blast. For this reason, because it's so limited in terms of the deck archetypes, it's not bad. It is good in a couple things. Again, you can use this with It also makes Smash power cost 0. Smash's ultimate ability, it makes Zombot's Wrath cost 1. I'm just going to put this in C. It's just kind of meh. It's okay in a couple of decks, but it's really not... It's not a strong contender in the top level of the game. Alright, here's Jurassic Fossilhead. This is a really interesting card. 2 costs 2/3, but it can't be removed. So playing this dry in the field is useless. The only real use out of Jurassic Fossilhead is if you're using it to upgrade one of your professional. It has to be specifically a professional zombie. Now, there are some very decent professional zombies. Gladiator, in this class, Gladiator, Middle Manager, Flag Zombie, Teacher, all pretty good things. Not necessarily want to make this upgrade your teacher, but you can. It's a 1-cost card. So this is fine. Even in Flag Zombie and a whole bunch of professional zombies, you're not necessarily running Fossilhead because of how circumstantial it is. Like, if you have this in your hand and you don't have a professional zombie on the field, you got yourself a 2-cost 2/3, which is really bad. In fact, it is big and professional. You can use a lot of cards like Area 22, cards like that to buff this up. Very, very difficult card to remove. Obviously, there's no like deadly plants, so the only plants that can really remove this off the field are like plants that remove some things. They have to be like Jumping Bean or Cob Cannon. Overall, this is a fine card. I probably underuse Fossilhead. I probably should be making more Fossilhead. I find that when I actually run this in the Flag Zombie decks, it's usually pretty good. You're not really running 4 copies because it's a lot. You're more running like 2 or 3. It is a fine card. I actually pretty underuse this. It's because it's limited though. Like, it's limited to professional decks, and even the one good professional deck with Flag Zombie, it's certainly not a must include. It's very, very far from that. I'm gonna put this in C because, again, it's a decent card. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but to say that this really it struggles when it comes to investing an entire card in your deck. You can only run 40 cards in deck, and to invest several of those into Fossilhead, there's usually a lot better options, and that's why I'm putting it in C. All right, now here's Leftovers. This really has all the shortcomings of Camel Cross. Like, instead of adding 2 health, so it adds 1 attack and 1 health, which arguably 2 health is better because it at least keeps your guys alive. But the problem it has, first of all, this costs twice as much as Camel Cross, which is just ugh. And, you know, if this costs 1, you could then start making an argument. Obviously, it would outclass Lunchbox by a lot. This would be very good at a 1-cost card, even though, again, it would make Lunchbox useless. For a 2-cost card, it doesn't do enough. It has all the same problems that you need to have at least 2 zombies on the field for this to be... For a 2-cost card, you really need there to be, like, at least 3 zombies on the field in order for this to be good, because then you'd have a 2-cost 3/3. Otherwise, a 2-cost 2/2... And who said those zombies are going to survive that turn and not get berry blasted for you to even be able to play Leftovers? This is overall a really trash card and basically doesn't deserve to be in any deck, including Storm decks, including Pet decks, and it is going in F tier. It's really an unusable card. It's sad. Alright, now here's a gem. Sumo Wrestler is not only good in sports decks, it's not only good to shove minions at your arm wrestling zombie like I explained before. This is actually a very, very solid control card. You still do run Control Neptuna, where you're using your Rolling Stones on 1, maybe Gladiator on 1, then you have Sumo on 2. Sumo, the fact it can change lanes, you can just stick this on the field. Sometimes they can play around it and stick their minion right in front of it, and then Sumo doesn't do it. But if they have any other minion on the field, you get to choose what you're moving. This is also very good in the late game, I found, because a lot of your 2-cost cards, like on turn 6 and 7, they're not very useful. Sumo is a very useful card on turn 6 and 7, because if you have a zombie that they're not able to answer, but it's chump blocked by a plant, this just, as long as you have an open lane, the Sumo's going to remove that plant out of the way. This will create good matchups. This can be used to, if there's a problematic plant, you need to move that in front of one of your zombies, you could definitely do it that way too. Really great part of every sports deck. You gotta have 4 Sumos. Overall, amazing card. It's never wrong with having a couple Sumos in a deck. I'm gonna put this in A tier. This is actually an extremely solid card. I would say back in the day where Control Neptuna was better. Nowadays, again, Haunted Pumpkin is the problematic card for Control Neptuna. She doesn't have a good way of dealing 2 damage until turn 2, and then that's too late, because then they just put 1 or 2 more minions on the field, like with Sumo. Back in the day of Control Neptuna, before Haunted Pumpkin, Sumo probably would have actually been S tier, because this used to be one of the best control cards in the game. For turn 2, it was almost irreplaceable, but now that the Hearty class has become a lot less good at pure control strategies. It's really because of the shortcomings of Rolling Stone against a lot of the problematic plants is the reason why Sumo actually is also worse, because it's a lot less useful nowadays. It's a little sad. Okay, guys. Terrify, more like terrible. This is so bad. Guys, this costs 2 brains. I wish this cost 1, because I feel like at 1 cost, this could have actually been a good card. It draws you a card in your deck, so it gives you a little bit of value. Moving a plant, like, again, it's so circumstantial. You have to have a zombie on the field, and then you move the plant and you make a good... It's so circumstantial, but it's fine because it only costs 1. At 2, why are you spending 2 brains to just move a plant and draw a card? And why would you run this in your deck? Like, which deck is it? What are you going to do? Arm Wrestler on 1, Terrify on 2? Just run Sumo. This, unfortunately, is really one... It does not deserve to be in any deck. If anyone ever shows me a deck on YouTube, like, when I'm streaming and it has Terrify, I'm like, why? Why? Don't tell me to use this with Mondo Bronto, a 5-cost card, which will probably not survive until turn 6, in which case you'll have this really cool combo where you Terrify into it. We did that. That was a total meme, by the way. This is a really bad card. Let's go. Turkey Rider. Back when this came out, I actually thought it was pretty good. I even made a video dedicated to this card, the Thanksgiving special. So cringy. You can look that up. It's still on the private channel somewhere. That's me dancing around with the Turkey Rider. You know what? Just because of how cringy that video is, I think I'm just gonna... No, for real though. Pet zombie... Pet... I used to say in Smash, because again, the only thing this is really useful as a pet. You can use it as an imp. It's not really good with imps. There's a lot better imps to run. The fact this is a zombie, it means you can't stick it in front of a plant. Like, if this had been like a Beam Me Up, or this had been like a plant that has the exact same ability. It's a 2/2, you can stick it in front of something or move something, then when it dies, you get a card, which by the way is trash. Leftovers is not a good card. So then it could have actually been been useful. The fact this is a dry zombie and you just stick it onto the field, they're just gonna leave this alone. Like, it's a 2-cost 2/2. Like, what if you just had a 1-cost 2/2? They would just leave it alone. A 2-cost 2/2, just leave it alone. There's no reason to ever remove this. It just drains so much tempo, and you're never gonna gain the leftovers. And even when you do, leftovers is a piece of trash garbage. I used to think that this with like Zookeeper was good. You play Turkey Rider on 2, and then Zookeeper Camel Cross on 3. But on the highest level of the game, between me and you, that's not a good strategy, because your Zookeeper on turn 3 and hoping Camel Cross will work is your Zookeeper is going to get removed before you play Camel Cross on the highest level of the game. Any decent opponent is either going to remove your Zookeeper or make a stronger play on turn 3 than your play. So the fact this will get a little value, like this will become a 3/4 if you're able, if you have both a Camel Cross and a Zookeeper in your hand. I don't know. It's really not useful in any deck. I'm not going to put it in hot garbage, but it's really an F. It's sad. What if this was a 3/2? This needs some kind of buff. I think if Leftovers cost 1, it still wouldn't be that good of a card, but maybe then it would be a redeeming quality. Ugh. Alright, here's Celestial Custodian, or as we call him, Janitor. You probably could have asked me before this tier list, what is the real name of this guy, and I wouldn't have been able to tell you. The reason why we call him the Janitor is because he's a piece of trash garbage. This is not... Guys, the problem with any zombie that is a control card and is a dry zombie is that it only controls plants that were played the turn before. It does not control plants that are played that turn. So you're using a 3-cost card to remove the card that you were not able to answer on turn 2, and then the plant just goes and plays a stronger card, which you still don't have an answer to. And so it's a flaw in every control dry zombie. As a gravestone, this might have even been better. The fact this only works in an environment 2 is just like, why? It didn't even need that. Even if this would just outright destroy any zombie with 2 or less, maybe then it would be okay, because it would just be so useful. It probably would still be outclassed by Rolling Stone in that case, because costing 2 more and being a dry control zombie and giving you a 3-2. It's just not worth it. This would actually still be completely outclassed by Rolling Stone, even if it was, even without the if played in environment. I don't know what they were thinking with this. This is such a flawed, because I would put this in F, but because this is a flawed card in 3 ways, both in terms of its cost and the fact it's a control dry zombie, and because it has the condition of an environment. This card has 3 humongous flaws, and it's going in hot garbage. It's so bad. Ugh. I know I said back in Middle Manager that getting one of these is not bad. Like, we're talking about when you play Middle Manager and you happen to get Custodian. It's not a card you are running in your deck. It's not the end of the world, but to actually run this in your deck and to have it be a reliable contributor towards your win strategy, never, ever, ever. It has 3 reasons why not. All right. Here is Cosmic Sports Star. Now, of the Cosmic cards, which are typically very, very underpowered and bad, this is actually one of the best ones. The fact that it gives, again, 3 cost 2/2 is horrible stats, but it gives you a ramp. So this makes up for its lost potential. Cosmic P is a 3 cost 1/1 with double strike. It doesn't give you a way to make back that tempo, that horrible tempo loss that you did on turn 3. Cosmic Sports Star does, because if you get a 1 or 2 cost zombie, you play that for free. Like Arm Wrestler, Gladiator, Sumo are really good things to get from Cosmic Sports Star. But even if you get, let's say, a defensive end that is a 6 cost card, you can then play that the next turn. So you've played a 3 cost 2/2, but at least you get so much redeeming tempo the next turn from Cosmic Sports Star. Now, it's not actually very useful in a lot of decks. Even in sports decks, I typically am not running Cosmic Sports Star. It's okay. For budget players, if you don't have better options, you don't have your Gladiators, you need a couple more Sports Zombies, it's fine. This is a very weird way to try to activate Stompidon. It's actually not a very good idea. I wish this was more useful in more decks. Like Conjure, I don't know. I've never done like Dr. Spacetime on 2, Cosmic Sports Star on 3. Never thought of that. Maybe that would be a good idea. I should try that. But it's not actually useful in a lot of decks. And again, even in sports decks, it falls short. It's still an okay card. I think for budget players, it's fine. If it weren't a viable card in budget sports decks, I would probably put it in D. But just for that reason, and because it overall is fine, and it's never horrible. Most of the time I actually end up playing this is when Dr. Spacetime conjures it, and in that case, it's actually really good because you have your Dr. Spacetime on the field. It conjures this, then you place for 3, and then it gives you another card that costs 3 less now. That's actually most of the Cosmic Sports Stars I've probably played in the last 2 years have actually been conjured by Dr. Spacetime. Just because of its fun value and stuff, I'll put it in C, but competitively, it's probably closer to D. Alright. Oh, here's the one, guys. If there is one zombie card that you are going to craft, it is going viral. This is so unique in the fact that it single-handedly is the win condition for an entire class of PvZ heroes. The only thing comparable to this is Plant Food for the Mega Grow class. That Plant Food is just always the win condition card in every Mega Grow. This is the win condition of every single Hearty class. It doesn't matter if you're running Trickster with Rust Bolt, you're running Flag Zombie, you're going Gargantuars, even though that's a bad idea, you're going Sports. It doesn't matter what deck you are running. Going viral, 4 going virals is always a good idea, at least 3. It's always a good idea. I don't think there is again, Plant Food is probably the only exception of a card that is included, the percentage of high-level decks for its class that is included in, this is almost 100%. This is like a 99% include card. Again, if the event card cycle, you can probably look up on the wiki when the event cards come up, so if it's coming up within the next month, maybe wait for it. But otherwise, if you play zombies and you're playing anything in the Hearty class, especially budget sports decks, Neptuna, it doesn't matter what it is, you craft 4 going virals and you include them in every deck. This makes your guys frenzy. The key to making a good deck in PvZ Heroes is you have to just think, I need a win condition. You need to do 20 damage to your opponent's face. You have to be so laser focused on that, and this is one of the greatest cards in the game for that. It makes every single zombie not only buff but frenzy too. Like if this only made all your zombies frenzy, it probably would still be a decent card. The 1/1 buff just makes it unbelievable. It makes you have good trades. It makes, again, it just completely annihilates one of the strategies that the plants have, is just a chump block to put plants in front of your zombies. As long as you're winning the trade, which you very often will with the 1/1 buff, This just wins games. And it draws a card too, and it shuffles more into your deck. Like, it didn't even... The shuffle going virals in your deck is a gimmick. It doesn't actually make the card really any better or worse. I guess it's probably better to have more going virals in the late game than it is to have in the early game, so maybe it overall is a buff. But the fact that it also draws you a card, it doesn't it didn't need to draw a card. This still would be amazing if it did not draw a card. This is really, I don't think it's overpowered. I do not want to see going viral get nerfed. I think at 4 it would actually be, at 4 it would still be a good card. This would actually still be viable at 4, but I really don't, because I think the Hearty class is weak enough as it is. I can't say anything more about going viral. This is a very, very good candidate for best card in the game, particularly when you think about what percentage of Hearty decks this is included in. It's basically 100. SS tier. Absolutely freaking fantastic. All right, here's Knockout. Knockout, it's a good card, but it's also a very bad card. So it's actually outclassed by Rolling Stone. That's really the main problem. Knockout... The difference between a 2-attack plant and a 3-attack plant, it's very limited. You're just trying to think, like, Knockout, this is a good value card. I'm not saying it's bad, but you have to say, I'm going to include this. I'm going to fill an entire deck slot with Knockout. And to decide to do that over Rolling Stone is usually a bad idea. Usually Rolling Stone, again, all the real problematic cards, your Black Eyed Peas, your Captain Cucumbers, Pecanolith, they're answered by a card that is too cheaper. Like, I feel like at 2 costs, this would probably be better. Now, this used to be an answer to some really problematic cards like Briar Rose. Back when Briar Rose cost 4, Knockout was clearly a lot better. Briar Rose costs 5 now, so there's a lot more, to answer Briar Rose on 5, you don't need Knockout to do that anymore. Especially if this is outclassed by, like, I guess only in Z-Mech it's Exploding Fruitcake is always better than Knockout. Obviously outclasses Custodian. There's no question about that. So again, if you're running an all-out control deck, I would say Knockout's probably a good idea. It also competes, besides for Rolling Stone, it also competes with Weed Spray, which, again, when is Knockout? What opponent are you playing that Knockout is better than Weed Spray? It's not better against Nuts. Weed Spray is better against Pecanolith decks. It's better against Bean decks, better against Mushroom Swarms. I mean, this will answer your Pine Clones, but only 1 row. This is not... People say, oh, Pine Clone's not that good. It's answered by Knockout. No, this answers 1 row of Pine Clones. If you're doing well with Pine Clones, you're getting at least 3. You're getting Pine Clones in at least 3 rows. This only knocks out 1. Where am I going to put you? It's not a bad card, and again, in control decks, Hearty's not the greatest control strat. I can't really put this in D. I'll just put it in C. It's actually really on the same level as most of the C-cost cards. It's better than Camel Cross, that's for sure. Too bad. Too bad Knockout. I felt like when Knockout was announced to the game, this was like in the last set, I believe. This is in Triassic. I was really, really happy because now there's an answer to Briar Rose, and it also meant that Z-Mech would have a bigger removal card, but at the same time, Exploding Fruitcake came out, and Briar Rose got knocked down eventually to 5-cost cards, so... Knockout doesn't see a lot of inclusions in decks, unless you're going all-out control, which again, there's actually better control cards like Line Dancing Zombie and Control Neptuna, for example. Alright, here's Landscaper. Oh, where am I going to put Landscaper? I don't know why they buffed this to a super rare. This was fine. It used to be a rare. This was a very important card in the original Control Neptuna deck back from set 1, where you'll go Landscaper on 3. It's a very good combo with Mixed Up Gravedigger, which pops all you guys back into gravestones, and then pops them out. This will activate a second time. Right now in the meta, I don't know how good this is, because if you just, what are you controlling with this on turn 3? If you're playing a control deck, what are your big threats you gotta take care of? It's Poison Ivy. This does not answer Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy has 5 attack. This will now make it do 3 attack and give you a 2/2 on the field. What are you, Zapricot? Health Nut, it does nothing to. Just try to think of, the real strong aggro cards that the control decks are, it's the purpose to counter. It really doesn't do a again, it's nice with Mixed Up Gravedigger. It's not a bad card. If someone's running this in control deck, I can't argue. This also will make the plants potentially either have 0 attack or charge your block meter. This does actually answer Captain Cucumber very well, which is not bad. I probably underused this card a bit. I don't know. Maybe I should try more Hearty control decks. Wonder if this was a 3-3, if it would be. But I feel like as a 3-3, this would be a lot better. I'm just gonna put it in C. It's really the same usefulness as these cards. Everything's going into C tier. I've never found the good deck with Lost Coliseum. I've yet to. Its stats are trash. It's a 3-cost 2/3, and the same way that if you know, it has the same problem as every single card that only buffs one other single card. It's a very expensive way of doing it, and that, of course, is Shamrocket. Shamrocket makes this card unplayable. If you would, again, do as I suggest, that you nerf all the removal on the plant side. Shamrocket costs 5, Squash costs 6, Doomstream costs 7. Lost Coliseum actually becomes a decent card, because you just need to make it, again, it's still not that great. It would be potentially viable. Because if you would, because then a 3-cost card is usually going to get removed on turn 3 because it could just get berry blasted. You could just put any one bonk choy. You can use hot date. There's just so many things remove this as a dry zombie. So then, but even then, if it does survive, the card still gets Shamrock. Oh my gosh, this is hot garbage. I'm putting this in the garbage tier. You're really, the only time you ever see Coliseum in the game, it's never included in a deck. It's usually a conjure, like you got it from something. What class is this in, by the way? Triassic? You like conjure this from something, and it's not a very good conjure. I'm putting it in hot garbage. Ugh. Not every hero has Shamrocket, but the hero will have Shamrocket or Berry Blast or Hot Date or something. Every class basically has an answer to this. Or a 3-attack minion. A 3-3 answers that. A 3-3 plant answers this. Anyway, Team Mascot. This is a great card. This actually, at the beginning of the game, used to be a 1-3. And then it was useless because it was exactly like Lost Coliseum that has no chance of surviving on turn 3. 1-4 is very, very good for a 3-drop. It's very, like, what removes this on turn 3? Basically just Hammer for the solar mallet, whatever it's called, Whack-a-Zombie. But if they don't have that, they either need to play Spikeweed Sector plus a guy, they need team-ups. This is a very, very, very difficult card to control on turn 3. And it grows every single turn, and it grows all of your sports zombies. This is a justification for an entire genre of deck, sports deck, which is, again, very good for budget players. It's even viable for top-level players as well. Not the greatest deck for top-level players, but it's still at least viable. Health Nut answers this. You got Zapricot. There's not a lot of very commonly used. Again, there are answers to this, especially if you play this on Heights. You avoid the Spikeweed Sector. But Team Mascot is, of course, it's also a common card. Just love this, especially for budget players. This is going in solid A. Again, it really is only useful in sports decks. You really don't want to be including this in any deck. It's not a sports deck. But in sports decks, it obviously leads the charge. It's the whole point of running sports decks, and we'll put it in A tier for that reason. All right. Oh my gosh, a dice repeater. Shut up. Trash Can Zombie is exactly what it sounds like. It is a piece of trash garbage. 3-cost 2-3 is not good stats. That's horrible value for a 3-cost card. If you're going to try to control with this card, then it's still bad because you're only controlling what they played on turn 2, and now they're making even a stronger play on turn 3. So it's not useful as tempo, not useful as aggro, not useful as control. It's not useful in any deck. Now, Trash Can Zombie used to actually be a 3-cost 3-2 with the same ability when revealed. This can't be hurt this turn. And by the way, on the highest level of the game, that wouldn't even be that great of a card. I think that would be fine, because at least it's doing a lot of damage. It then puts a threat on the field. 3 damage is a good, like, do 3 damage. A 3-2, remove one of your opponent's even weaker cards is okay. Even though Custodian is bad, but Custodian can, anyway, Custodian has a lot of other problems. So I feel like as a 3-2, this still wouldn't have been a great card. This might have been like a C on the highest level of the game. I don't know what this would be like as a 3-2. Maybe you can use this as a tempo card, played on 3, and then you do some kind of going viral play on turn 4. Who knows? But in its current state, it's going in hot garbage exactly where it belongs. This is so freaking bad. You never include this in any deck. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Make PvZ Heroes great again is right. Here's Weed Spray. Weed Spray is decent. This is a direct counter to nut decks, bean decks, mushroom decks that aren't running Pine Clone. Anything swarmy. It's not a bad card. I do think that Wheat Spray in general is outclassed by Rolling Stone, because Rolling Stone, again, Usually, if you're up against a nut deck, you gotta just take out that one Pecanolith or Mirror Nut if they're running Mirror Nut. You gotta, if they have let's say Weed Spray is very good against Black IP, but again, that's only if they have 2 Black IPs, Weed Spray is the better card, but if they have 1, which is usually the case, Rolling Stone answers it. Even in Bean decks, like, it's so nice to clear all their Beans and all their Lima Pleurodons, but really, the one card you gotta kill is the Admiral Navy Bean. That slows down their deck so much, and the versatility of being able to do this on turn 1 against that pesky Admiral Navy Bean they played on turns 1 or 2. Or even on turn 3, like the fact that you don't have to spend your entire turn field clearing, and maybe they'll just buff up their plants somehow, like they'll use an Embiggen if they're Green Shadow on their Admiral Navy Beam. Like, this is such a big investment to put. This really is outclassed by Rolling Stone. Again, it's not a bad card. It's not a bad card. Counter Cycle Cap? Not really. This actually doesn't counter Cycle Cap. Environments counter Cycle Cap, because they've already drawn so many cards using their Cycle strategy that typically they'll have the next wave, that even if you clear their field, they'll just come in and do it again. So you gotta get rid of the environment, not Weed Spray them. Plus, any good Cycle Cap deck also runs Pine Clone, which is the hard counter to Weed Spray. Weed Spray becomes useless against Pine Clone. I'm gonna put this in C. It's just a C tier card. Again, it's because of Rolling Stone. If it weren't for Rolling Stone, this would be better. But in terms of actual decks you include Weed Spray in, this could almost go in B. This could almost go and be, again, I'm talking about on the highest level of the game. Low level of the game, there's a lot of just nut decks, very inefficient, mushroom spam. Weed Spray is amazing on the lowest level of the game. And back in set 1, Weed Spray for me was like my guy, because everyone was just running mushroom spam and didn't have Pine Clones. But on the highest level of the game, there's actually not a lot of decks that die really badly to Weed Spray. And in terms of actual including this in highest level, again, for budget players, it's not a budget card anymore. But for budget players to be different, on the highest level of the game, including in decks, this goes in C. Alright, here's bonus track Buckethead. The reason why Wingnut is such a good card on the plant side, that is the solar plant, of course, that prevents bonus attacks. The same thing. First of all, Wingnut is a plant, so it can be played as a counter to something. Being a plant is always better than just being a dry zombie, because again, this can be stuck in front of something, this can be stuck dry, can't be countered as easily. This prevents everything bonus attacks. So Wingnut has the better stats than bonus track Buckethead, but that's not the main reason. All those there are 2 reasons why Wingnut is better than bonus track. The main reason is because zombies rely much more heavily on bonus attacks than plants do. The plant decks that run bonus attacks is only the Mega Grow class. There's really almost no other plant class that relies on bonus attacks first win condition. Zombie decks, almost every zombie deck relies on bonus attacks first win condition. Particularly the Brainy class, which is the best zombie class. But even the Hearty class, like going viral, this will, again, preventing bonus attacks will prevent your frenzied minions. The Beastie class relies on frenzy to win. Yeah, maybe the Sneaky class doesn't, but what's that being combined with? So that's the reason why bonus track Buckethead, again, so many reasons why this is actually a very bad card, especially at 4 costs, and unfortunately, this is going into D. It's sad. I wish this was better. Again, every once in a while against the Mega Grow class, this will just take over games. But this can also be removed. For a 4-cost card, this doesn't have enough stats. Like, if this was a 3/6 with armor, and then it was just like a really, really difficult card to remove, then fine. But on 4, there's plants that do 5 attack on turns 4 or 5 by the time you need to remove this. And yeah, really, really sad. And speaking of huge disappointments in the Hearty class, again, here's just another such iconic card. This is so bad. Why would you ever run Buckethead in a deck? This is, again, one of the iconic zombies from the franchise, and it's just been ruined by it doesn't, just a clunk. It's not even great stats, by the way. 4 costs 3/5. Like, make this a 3/7 with armor. Why not? Let's say this was a 4 cost 3/7. Is that OP? It would be viable. It wouldn't be overpowered. It would be, okay, well, maybe there's a deck where you're able to put this on turn 4 and then going viral. You'd have to follow it up with something good, but then it would be fine. It's trash. It's never a good idea to include this, even for budget players in any deck, and unfortunately, Bucket Zombie is going in F tier. It's so freaking bad. 4 cost 3/7 armor. It wouldn't even be that good, because when you have 4 or more cost zombies, They have to have more than stats. How does this card make you win the game? In which deck does this contribute to your win condition? Low-level players, again, just throw a bunch of high-stat cards in the field and hope for the best. High-level players have a very direct win condition. This is how I'm doing 20 damage to your bonus phase. Again, with going viral as like a 3-6 or 3-7, even 3-6 would be underpowered. As a 3-7, if you have something to follow us up with, like going viral or Area 22, this could actually be a decent card. 3-4, it's just unplayable. It's just unplayable for a 4-cost card. Because of bucket synergy. Thanks a lot, guys. Alright, here's Medic. Medic is better than Buckethead, that's for sure. This is a very unuseful card. Again, it has bad stats. It heals you for 4, but it's a dry zombie. So the fact that it's healing your face for 4, but it opens up the opportunity for the plants to do a lot more than 4 damage to your face. If you play this on turn 4 and heal your face, they just play Poison Ivy and they do 5. Like, this is so outclassed by so many 4-cost zombies in this game. Just compare this to Pogo. I mean, Pogo's... If you want a good control strategy, you can do this. Now, I did do this cute deck where you play Medic and Pogo, and then you run mixed up Gravedigger, and it keeps on healing you. Sometimes healing a zombie is good. It's typically not, though. Like, you have a Gladiator that was protecting you, and they're gonna kill, so then you heal it for 4. This is a very, an almost unplayable card. I think because it's kind of fun and kind of quirky in a couple decks, like with Neptuna with mixed up Gravedigger. I'll put it in D just for that reason, but again, if you're running 1 or 2 of these, there's a couple times it's useful. It's very, very circumstantial. And again, it's a huge investment on turn 4 because the things that a good plant player can do to you on turn 4 when you turn 4 Medic is just, they can rip you to shreds on turn 4. Set up something that will just completely destroy you. Alright. Stomp It On. Whoo! So, the very, very specific genre, you know, archetype. Like, you can't just stick a couple Stomp It Ons in any deck. This card used to cost 3. Back when this cost 3, this would have been like easy S tier. This used to cost 3. As a 4-cost card, you got to build your deck around this. It's mostly useful in Rust Bowl because then you can teleportation zombie on 3, Stomp It On 4, or teleport Stomp It on turn 5. So you're really not running Stomp It On in that many decks other than Rust Bowl. You can use this with the Flag Zombie Swarm, even with Smash. It's nice if you have a way to protect this. If you play Stomp It On and then, again, right into Middle Manager on turn 5, that's a way, even without Rust Bowl, you can activate it. It's a little bit slow, though, to just start setting up, buffing up your guys. It's very, very good, again, to combine with Gladiator, giving that stats with your teachers, with all your little guys. It's very good to put this right onto a Buried Treasure, too. So Neptune also has a cool way of activating this. If your Buried Treasure somehow survives on the field, you can stick a Stomp, or on turn 5, you can just Buried Treasure, Stomp It On right into it. It's a pretty good way to activate it. This is, again, it's very, very specific, the amount of decks. This is not, Stomp It On decks are not the greatest decks in the game right now. You can go Stomp It On Trickster, which was amazing. That was really, really, really fun. Should be a 3-cost 2-3. I don't know. Stomp It On Trickster was great. Again, that's not the most highly competitive deck in the game, though. It is an extremely, extremely fun card. I'm actually conflicted between A and B. I think this deserves to be in B just in terms of how many. Again, it's very, very limited. It's very fun, though. It's somewhat competitive. It's not a bad strategy. It's not one of the greatest. I'm just going to leave it in B. Alright, here is Turquoise Skull Zombie. I haven't found the use for this. Again, it seems to have, like, okay stats. A 4-cost 2/6 Gravestone. It's completely outclassed by Pogo, by just, you know, some of the other 4-cost Gravestones in this game. Like, what does it do? It grows slowly. It makes them not have enough sun. I feel like as a cheaper card, this could have been better. If this had been a 2 or 3 cost card, and then it would have this function of, like, actually reduce, like, on turn 3 to only have 2 sun is a lot more significant than on turn 5 to only have 4 sun. On turn, like, what is the thing they needed to do on 5? Play exactly Bacchanal? It's not like, turn 5 is not like this really niche turn. On turn, like, 3, on turn 4 to only have 3, that's much bigger. It's a higher percentage of the sun that would be taking away from that turn, let's say. Very often on turn 5, you can burn one of your sun and just play a 4 drop. That's sometimes all you got anyway. You can, again, the main problem with Turquoise Skull Zombie is what is your win condition that it warrants running this expensive 4-cost card in your deck? 4 is expensive in this game. Like, what win condition? You're just doing this little weird stalling strat that, how does that, is that the solid way of controlling a plant? Not really. Especially if they just go on that turn, play something to face, you're dead. The game's gonna be insurmountable. The amount of value they got on turn 4 because you played a dumb dry. You spent all 4 of your brains on this dumb gravestone. Haven't found the use for this. Really have not. I'm putting it in D tier. I hope someday I'll find the use for it. Sports Coach. Zombie Coach is mostly good in sports decks. I'm just going to be putting this in the exact same tier as Team Mascot because it's really just always in exactly the same decks. You're almost never using Zombie Coach unless it's a sports deck. There is this one little cute strat where you use just Gladiator as a control and Sumo as a control, and then you use Sports Zombie, which protects your Gladiator from taking damage since Gladiator is a sports zombie, and then all the plants, when they're attacking, they'll hit the Gladiator, which is protected, and they do no damage that turn. So that's the only off sports deck that you're going to be running Zombie Coach. And again, that's just more just a meme deck. This is, again, extremely solid part of your sports decks, though. You got to run Sumo on 2, Team Mascot. If your Team Mascot survives in turn 3, which it usually does, your coach coming in is just irreplaceable. It makes your Mascot die another turn. This will turn to a 4/4. Makes your Sumo then turn to a 4/5 or whatever it is by that point. So not much more to say about Sports Coach. Pretty obvious in its uses. Let's go. Here's Zombie King. So Zombie King is sort of similar to Stompidon. Again, there's some really, really cool strategies. It's mostly good with Rust Bolt because you usually want to use Teleportation Zombie on 3, King on 4, or you go with King on, you do teleporting King on 5. Teleporting in the King is so essential because it's not like Stompidon that you can like activate its Dino War. This needs to live. This also needs another guy to live on the field. So Zombie King, just to play this on the field on turn 4 is typically a horrible idea because, again, removing a 3/5 on turn 4 is very, very doable for most plant decks. And also, that the other guy you have on the field, having 2 other guys in the field by that time, that's very, very rare. And even if the 1 other guy in the field, then they'll just remove that. If they can't do 5 damage, they'll do 3 or 4 damage to whatever you've played the turn before. So again, you gotta teleport this in. When you do teleport this in, you even get 1 knight. So then with Rust Bolt, then you start leaping the knights. The knight is a 7-cost card, so you leap that into a Plankwalker or an Octo Zombie and leap it again using, again, Transformation Station into a 9-cost card. That's one of the most fun decks in the game. You can see the Leap Knight decks I have on YouTube. Competitively, I would probably put this in the same section as B Stompidon because this is a slightly better card than Stompidon, and because it's actually one of the more fun cards in the game, I'm going to be putting this in A tier. It also is very good to have like Flag Swarm for the early game, and then every once in a while, if they go after your teacher or your genetic experiment instead of going after your Flag Zombie, then you can actually just stick turn 3 King onto the field, which again in that case is a lot better than Stompidon because if you've cleared your hand from zombies, then your Stompidon's no good because it has nothing in your hand to buff. If you clear your hand from zombies using Flag and then you play King, then it does have something to buff. So there is that use for it too. It really is the better card than Stompidon. And, alright, that's going in A tier. Mostly for fun. Competitively, it would probably still be hovering around B. All-Star Zombie's not worth it. Any zombie that costs even 4 or more, but particularly 5 or more and just has stats is not a good idea. This doesn't even do a lot of damage for a 5-cost card. It only does 4. Just compare this to Supernova Guard, does more damage. You compare this to, I don't know. It's not a good idea. Even in sports decks, you can run one of these in the sports decks, but it doesn't really help that much. Like, you go Coach on 4, you're not even necessarily going to have a lane to play this in on turn 5. Hopefully you won't. Hopefully you've clogged your lanes. You're really on turn 5 going for a small zombie and going viral to really activate all your guys instead of just having one frenzied minion. Of course, this dies to Shamrock, it dies to Squash, dies to every big removal card in the game. All-Star Zombie, again, is one of the most iconic guys in the entire game. It's not as bad as Buckethead, because at least it has a lot of stats. Again, this does have very, very heavy stats, but you need more than just stats for a 5-cost card. In terms of how much you actually include this in decks, it's going in D tier. Again, it's not horrible, but it really falls short in terms of the highest level of the game, ever including it in any deck, to be perfectly honest. In the original Plants vs. Zombies, this would have been an S tier. I love this. This is such a great card. Like, you need such a powerful, it's so fast. Damn, in the original one. Alright. Chump Champion is not a good card. Guys, Do not put this in your sports decks. This is a bad idea. Any zombie that is controlling only plants that were played the turn before and not what they play that turn is a bad idea. If you, on turn 5, even if you clear their whole field, the things the plants can do to you on turn 5, when you play your chump champion, they will wreck you. They're going to play a Picanolith, they're going to play their just some combo, they're going to put a whole bunch of pine clones on the field. They can do so much to you. They can do so much to you when you, the turn that you play chump champion. Don't say chump champion is a good answer to pine clones. It's not. You need there to be exactly a sports evolution. Like, why is this sports? Make the zombie evolution so at least it's more useful. You have to be exactly a sports zombie on the field. Then you play chump champion. You remove the stats of the sports zombies. If you had a big sports coach or team mascot or sumo or something like this, you lose those stats. To control what they played the turn before, and then they just wreck you on turn 5. Teleporting this in is again so unreliable, because that means you need a teleport in hand, you need 6 brains, and you need your sports zombie to basically have been played on turn 5, last turn 5, then also survive turn 6, and then teleport and chump jet. Your sports zombie's not going to necessarily live. It's too unreliable. If you're not using the sports evolution, it's useless. What's a 5 cost 4/4 that removes 1, like, why can't this remove 3 attack? What if this was, when played, remove 3 attack from all the plants, or at least 2? This is so bad. Guys, this is never, ever, ever a good card, and this is going in F tier. This is such a piece of trash. Stop running Chump Champion in your sports deck. It's not a good idea. Gosh. Intergalactic Warlord, on the other hand, this is not only a competitive card, it's also a very fun card. I mean, if you can run this in sports decks. You go Coach on 4, Galactic on 5, Going Viral Combo on 6. You can play this kind of just with anything. Anytime you're building tempo, this is going to be good. Very good with Flag Zombie strategy, even not sports. You go Flag Zombie Swarm on 2. Going Viral on 3, Intergalactic on 4 makes you win more. The fact, it's so unique card that it has carryover. When you play this, it gives you value for the rest of the game. Every single one of your guys is going to be +1/+1. Again, this is not the greatest card in the game because you lose a lot of stats the turn you play Intergalactic Warlord, because it is a 5 cost 3/3. Now, to even make up for its stats on turn 5, you gotta have at least 2 guys survive on the field, which again, at the beginning of a zombie turn, to have 2 guys survive is not that rare, but then even then, it's just a 5 cost 5/5. It's on par stat-wise, and then you sort of gain those extra stats for the rest of the game. This is a really, really fun card to combine with Neptuno with Mixed Up Gravedigger. I actually recently uploaded a deck like that to Prime Up Gaming, and that was really, really fun. Pogo, Intergalactic Warlord, Mixed Up Gravedigger, just an amazing combo, because when you pop this into a gravestone and it pops out, it will buff all your guys by 1/1 again, and then the game just becomes very, very sad for the plant players. Also very good notable combo if you're running the Smash with Synchronized Swimmer, because this will buff all your guys. Synchronized Swimmer will copy a bigger card, and then after Synchronized Swimmer copies it, will gain an additional 1/1 because of the Intergalactic Warlord. Cool little game mechanic. I'm putting this in 8. I think this is actually not bad really in any tempo deck. It is very outclassed by Going Viral. If you actually compare these 2 cards, unfortunately, this becomes a lot worse because of Going Viral. But competitively, again, we could argue, but certainly in terms of its fun value, and it's really not bad to have a couple of these in any tempo deck, any Flag Zombie deck. I'm putting it right in A. Alright, guys. You know, right when I started playing PvZ Heroes, my favorite way to do it was you play a bunch of guys, you play your Conehead zombies, kind of like dick around until turn 5, then you hit them with the Monster Mash. It gives you so much stats. Guys, this is such a bad card. This is for a 5 cost card. Okay, listen. How do you get value out of this? Let's say you play even 2 zombies on the field on turn 4, and they survive the entire turn 4. And then you pass turn 5, because you gotta invest all 5 brains into your trick stage. And those 2 zombies again survive the entirety of turn 5 without getting removed. Then Monster Mash is a 5 cost 4/4 worth of stats. In that miracle situation, 3 zombies are happening to? That's almost impossible. And then it's 5 cost 6/6, which is not that good. Even in that situation, 1/1 and Frenzy would be better than 2/2. Because Frenzy makes you win the game. Adding a bunch of stats to your cards does not make you win the game. It might make you win the game 2 turns later. You gotta, at turn 5, you gotta be going for the jugular. You gotta be going for the kill, and this does not go for the kill on turn 5. This is such a flawed card. I'm telling you literally, if Monster Mash costs 3, I would still say going viral would be the better card. I feel like there might be uses for it, especially in a flag zombie. That would actually be ridiculous. I wouldn't mind seeing this at 3. I don't think it would be too good, and it would be it would be hard to, like, you probably end up with a lot of decks just flag zombie swarm, 4 going viral, 4 Monster Mash. I wonder if that would be OP. I feel like if they wanted to, like, switch up the meta in this game and do like they did like the last update where they just changed the cost of cards, why don't you just make Monster Mash cost 3 and see what happens? I wouldn't mind, but at 4 this would be so underpowered. At 4 it would be unplayable. That's the reason why it should cost 3. Because at 4, again, you need 2 zombies to survive turns 3 and 4 in order to get just any value. Oh, at 5, this is hot garbage. Hot garbage. This is really one of the worst cards in the entire game. So freaking bad. Holy moly with this card. Especially as a plant card, this could be decent, actually, because then you could swarm a whole bunch. As a plant card, this would be fine. Swarm a whole bunch of mushrooms and little buddies onto the field, and then just play Monster Mash immediately. Play whatever it is. It'll be Plant Mash. And buff them up before anything bad happens, but as is. Not a good card. We're moving on to Primal Yeti. Now, Primeval Yeti is not actually that bad. The way that you use Primeval Yeti in a deck is typically with Flag Zombie. Because if you have Flag, there's a couple cool combos you can do. Like if your Flag survives turn 2, it really has to survive turn 3, and then you can play a 1-drop plus a Primeval Yeti on top of it. This makes a 6/6, really buffs up all your cards. This is sort of the better version of Monster Mash. Because again, you can play it immediately at the beginning of the stage instead of waiting for the plants to respond to you and then maybe play this. The really cool zombie with Primeval Yeti is if you do Flag Swarm on turn 2, and let's say they remove one of your cards that are not Flag Zombie, you play Brain Vendor, if you're Rust Bolt, Brain Vendor on turn 3, which will then make you on turn 3 have 4 brains, and then because you have Flag Zombie on the field, you can play Primeval Yeti on top of the Brain Vendor. That's a really cool strat. I have used this again in Flag. It's mostly good in Flag Zombie decks.
Mashed potatoes, lol.
Mashed potatoes? That would be the Monster Mash for plants. That's a really good one, Dash. Did that ring on the screen? I didn't notice, but anyway.
Shut up and take my
Thank you,
Put
A.
Monster Mash up front so it enters the cremation station first. Piece of trash garbage.
What? Cremation station? Anyway, you guys cracked me up. It's a fine card. It's really only good in Flag, and even in Flag Zombie decks, it's not even that great. I don't really know where to put this. It's not a great card. I'm gonna put it in C. It's just kind of with the meh in the meh tier. We're gonna be running out of room for our arm wrestler soon. Don't worry about that when it happens. Next, Screen Door Zombie. Ugh. Guys, a 5-cost card that has great stats is still a bad idea because you need your 5-cost cards to be winning the game. This doesn't even have great stats. This is a 5-cost gravestone, so by the way, it gets grave busted. Which any gravestone that costs 5 or more is like, it's got to be it has to be Mixed Up Grave Digger just to be viable. Which, by the way, Mixed Up Grave Digger doesn't get grave busted because you don't know where it is. So that's actually part of the thing with Mixed Up Grave Digger. But Screen Door Zombie, it's hot garbage. It's really bad. Gosh. Okay, Coffee Zombie. It's not a great card. It's completely outclassed by going viral. This is a nice, cute little way of giving your guys a whole bunch of frenzy, but again, it needs 6 brains. 6 is a lot. I feel like at 5, this would have been viable. Then you can even go 4 going virals and 4 coffees in the same deck. I have done decks with Z-Mech where you just swarm a lot and then you put a lot of, like, you know, quick draw commands on the field and you buff up your cards and keep them alive and finish them off with Coffee Zombie. Coffee Zombie also, when you play this on the field, it gives your opponent an opportunity to respond. It's not a horrible card, it's just too expensive. Oh, I wish this card cost 5. It's really the same as like Primeval Yeti and stuff like that. And we'll put this in C tier. I don't know what I'm gonna do with my little okay. Say hello to little friend. Where do I put this guy? I'll just leave him right over here. We'll stick him back on the tier list if there's more room later. Guys, Arm Wrestler's in C tier. Don't worry about it. Just floating. He's kind of just doing his own thing. In terms of actual usefulnesses, again, you don't really run Coffee Zombie in a lot of decks. All right, here's defensive end. You can put this in sports decks. It's not really useful as a sports card because, you know, unless you're playing unless your team mascot's still alive on turn 6, or your coach, you have a coach like after this to protect it. The sports synergy doesn't really matter that much. This is pretty good with a Gargologist deck though, because teleport Gargologist on 3, then you play defensive end on 4. Its ability makes it very good for a Garg. Now, this is still not one of the greatest cards in the game, but for a Garg, it's good because it plays against your Shamrock. Like, if you actually do Teleport Gargologist on 3 and play defensive on 4, Shamrock, it now costs 5, so it can't remove this. So, again, it's a Garg that's hard to remove. For a 6-cost card, it's basically a 6/6, doesn't have Frenzy itself. It's just a lot of stats. It's really not worth running in a lot of decks. Again, you can stick a couple of these in sports decks, it won't yell at you. In any Gargologist deck, it's always going to be your choice. I don't think this is a very good card, but it's useful in a couple decks and put in C. And now, just like that, we have room for Arm Wrestling Zombie in tier C. All right, there's a new environment cremation station, guys. Guys, stop! It's not funny. Oh my gosh. You know the word ra in Hebrew means bad? And the reason is so appropriate. This was actually the zombie that freed the Jews from Egypt. I don't really know what to say about this card other than it's a piece of trash garbage. What? 6 cost? Oh look, now instead of having 6 brains to wreck you with, you're freaking 3/4 dry you put on the field. Now, instead of the plants having 6 brains to wreck you with, now they have 6 sun to wreck you with. Now they have 4 sun to wreck you with. Like, really? I'm going to re-record that for the intro. When you play Raw Zombie on the field, so now instead of the plants having 6 sun to wreck you with, now they only have 4 sun to wreck you with. Just put whatever they want. Bananasaurus Rex, just freaking Health Nut combo. They could just put Pine Clone combo. There's so many things they can do by the time turn 6 is run around with 4 sun. Like, if this card costs, like, 4, I think this would be a decent card. Because now on turn 4, they only have 2 sun. I don't know. This is too expensive. You know, I was even told one time by one of the developers that Raw Zombie had the lowest win rate in the game. Meaning of all the cards, they had statistics of what their win rate is of the decks that a certain card is included in, and Raw Zombie was the lowest because whoever's running Raw Zombie in this deck clearly has no sun and clearly has no brains. Hot piece of garbage. It's going right into garbage here. Man, we're breaking the record for hot garbage here because there's a lot of hot garbage in this class. An F tier. Alright, here's Undying Pharaoh. It's a very shamrocketable card. A very, cob cannonable card. Squashable card. Any big removal card really does it for Undying Pharaoh. You're saying Raw Zombie should reduce 2 sun every turn. I don't know. I don't know how to fix Raw Zombie. They could cost 4. They could cost 3 and it reduces 1. Like a 3 costs 3/3 makes them reduce 1 sun that turn. Maybe that would be good. I don't know. And then you can use it with Mix Up Gravedigger. No, that wouldn't work. Oh my gosh. Never mind. Raw Zombie's unredeemable. Now, make Raw Zombie into a gravestone. That'll be a good idea. I'm joking, guys. Undying Pharaoh, again, this is a very powerful card. Every once in a while, Undying Pharaoh just wins you. It just saves you because they have all these guys. They have their freaking, I don't know what, they're Picanolus and they're big dinosaurs in the field, and they're ruining you, and you stick Undying Pharaoh, and you're just like, you can't do anything about it. So, if they don't have a removal card, which plant deck doesn't have a Shamrocket or a Squash or a Cob Cannon, something, or Briar Rose? I mean, there's so many answers to this thing. A Jumping Bean, like every class has a really, really solid answer, except for maybe the Kaboom class to Undying Pharaoh. The main problem, though, is that what win condition does this help you support? 6 cost is so expensive. This will be one of the most expensive cards in your deck. You're trying to do, this doesn't make you win the game, it just makes you lose more slowly. You play Undying Pharaoh in your deck, typically you're just going to lose the game, but it'll just take a couple more turns. Again, I did just upload a deck where you troll people with Undying Pharaoh and Gladiator and you protect them, and it's much more of a meme deck than anything else. If you're trying to do 20 damage to your opponents to face efficiently, Undying Pharaoh is not a good drop. Very often, again, you play Undying Pharaoh, they remove it, Shamrock it, Cob Cannon, they're all cards that give them so much value and give you nothing that turn. And for that reason, Undying Pharaoh, does it even deserve to be in C? I'm thinking between C and D. It's probably around the same as Coffee Zombie and Defensive End. It is a fun troll card. I'm just gonna put it in C. A little bit of fun value, a couple of contributing factors. Okay, here's Zombot Battlecruiser. This is one of the most overrated cards in the game. Even if you go back to my Galactic reaction is set 2, I thought Battlecruiser was going to be ridiculous OP. Let me explain why Battlecruiser is not a good card. First of all, 6 cost 6/5. It's not great stats, but that's not the problem. Okay, that's really not what Battlecruiser is about. Second of all, it is a 6 cost Gravestone, which means Gravebuster is a 2 cost card that just completely obliterates your 6 cost card. 6 cost Gravestone needs to give you so much. It needs to be so great in order to even just justify being a 6 cost Gravestone. And its ability is so overrated. This is not a good card. Let me explain why. This protects your zombies from the least threatening thing to your zombies is that the opponent played a big plant in front of them, and that is what's going to kill them. The main thing threatening your zombies are tricks, are active abilities, Jumping Bean, Cob Cannon, things that are going to squash, Shamrocket, things that are going to be directly, Berry Blast, directly removing your zombies during the trick phase. This is a Gravestone. See, if this was a card if this was not a Gravestone, I think this would actually be a very good card. You could teleport this in on turn 6. You could stick it in front of something, get free trade. To get a lot of value, you can make this go in an open lane. Again, 6 damage would then not be bad. If you would stick this on the field just directly on turn 6 and protect your guys, so they can still use their Jumping Bean and their things to remove your guys, but at least this has gotten value. Like, if you play this on the field on 6 now as a Gravestone and they do any amount of damage to it, they use a Plant Food or a Berry Blast to remove one of your guys, this pops out of the field and doesn't hit anything. It's not actually a good card. I thought this would be good with Mixed Up Gravedigger, but again, it's way too expensive. There's such better cards to combine with Mixed Up Gravedigger, and if this pops out last to the right, it does not. Then it protects all your guys, but if it pops out to the left, it will only protect itself, making it very, very difficult for a 6 cost card. Again, you need to win the game. What win condition does Zombot Battlecruiser contribute towards? A tempo deck? A control deck? It's actually not good in any deck archetype that I know of. It's a really horrible card, and I would probably put this in D, but because it's overrated, I'm putting it in F. It really is practically in terms of what decks you should run this in. It is an F tier card because there is really no deck that Zombot Battlecruiser is a good idea. All right, here's Knight. Piece of trash garbage. This is 7 cost. This is like a Garg, but instead of cost, like as a 5 cost card, this would still not be good. Even a 5 cost 5/5 with 2 armor would not be a good card. This card costs 7? Are you kidding me? Now, I'm not going to put it in hot garbage because the only time you ever see Knights is when you're leaping a 6 cost card into a 7 cost card, and then fine, it just stays on the field and hopefully you'll be able to leap it. It definitely is a harder card to kill. It also, again, usually most of the Knights you see are actually transformed by Kings. They transform things into Knights, so I can't really put this in hot garbage, but it's going in F tier because actually running this in a deck is never a good idea. Okay, here's Rodeo Garg. Now, this does have this disadvantage of being a 7 cost Gravestone. That is not good because, again, it dies to Gravebuster, but it does have huge stats. The fact that it moves a plant actually makes this viable. Again, this is very, very far from one of the best cards in the game, but this actually helps you win. Like, Battlecruiser, it doesn't make you do damage to your opponent's face in any situation, unless you have a Frenzy guy that was fronted by a plant who would exactly kill it, and now it doesn't die, and now it'll be able to do its frenzy. There's too many conditions for Battlecruiser. This, if you have a big zombie in the field that's not getting removed, this makes it go face. This can also take a very problematic plant, really any plant, and match up very, very well against it. So it sort of is a late game control card that also sort of activates one of your other zombies. It's, again, very, very far from the best card in the game. It's very expensive. I feel like at 6 this would be better. I think at 6 this would be a balanced card. Actually a quite good one. At 7, it's very weak. This is a weak card, but you can use this for budget players. I would suggest, it's only a rare, would suggest running this in your sports decks, especially if you don't have your going virals. You're going to need a way to open up lanes. Really, this also does put a lot of value on the field. I'm just going to put this in C with some of the other expensive cards. Again, it's a little too expensive, but I think for budget players it's fine, and it's okay. It's even good with the Gargologist, because if you, let's say, teleport your Gargologist in on turn 4, then you can play Rodeo on turn 5 and protect your Gargologist, and then you can get another Garg. It's just a much more useful card than Battlecruiser. Its ability is a lot better. I know the overall stat-wise, like, Battlecruiser's ability is so strong, but the usefulness is the key for cards. It's not how strong they are, it's how useful they are, and this ability, because it's a gravestone, is very unuseful. The Rodeo Garg very often gets a lot more value. And here's Wannabe Hero. This is a good...
I mainly decks. For Rut's Bolt, most of the DF and garbage cards are really good for me.
You know, leap decks is much better to start off with cheaper cards instead of playing expensive cards, praying to God they don't get Shamrocketed or Cob Cannons, or bounced off the field, and then maybe be able to leap them. Much better to make that investment into a smaller card. Wannabe Hero is a very good contestant for worst legendary in the game. This is a 7 call, even if this turns into a 621, which, by the way, how well were you controlling your opponent that you didn't even take 1 damage the whole game, that you even have more than 10 health? But even if this is a 7 cost 611 Frenzy, it's still bad. It's a dry zombie, dies to Shamrocket, dies to Cob Cannon, dies to Bounce. Any removal card, any decent plant deck will have some way of removing a zombie, and this will get removed not for 7 cost Sun. It'll get removed for 3, 4, or 5 cost at most, and they'll still have the remaining Sun to completely destroy you with on turn 7. Or they could ignore this, and it's just a 6 to face. For 7 Sun, the plants can set up they can set up the Moon. They can set up a Picanolith combo, a Magnifying Grass, Repeat Moss. There's so many things that they can do so much more than 6 damage on turn 7. This is really, 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 really bad. I think this is the first legendary we're actually putting into hot garbage tier, because there really is no deck that Wannabe Hero is a good idea. Even in your Gargologist, by the way, even though one deck where possibly, there's a lot better things to be running than Wannabe Hero. It's never a good idea. It's really, really trash. This is probably the worst legendary in the game. Man, we really went all out with the hot garbage today. Again, Hearty is not one of the better classes. There's 3 good things about the Hearty class. Sports, Flag Zombie Swarm, and going viral are really the 3 redeeming qualities in this environment, I guess. It is one of the weaker classes in the game, unfortunately, because I just feel like it's such iconic in terms of what they've actually included in here that I wish it was better. Anyway, guys, that was the Hearty tier list. Once again, let me know if you have any really creative ideas. Here, we'll stick a Arm Wrestler right where it belongs. Beautiful. Thank you again to Barry Dama, or Barry Bama, for making this template for me. Really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, I will see you for the next tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly did. Peace. This is Fry. Got him. Wannabe Hero versus Picanolith. Thank you. That's a really, really high percentage of being circuit. You should really run it just to counter Picanolith decks. I will upload this to YouTube. Right now, in the background, about 96% rendered is the superpower tier list. So that'll probably be uploading first thing in the morning. And yeah, man, it's a wrap. It's a freaking wrap. You see, I quit this and this guy's still floating. I'm going to take a 1-minute break, and then we're going to come back and do the daily challenge and whatever else we're doing today. I'll see you guys in 1 minute. Man, a nice big fat crowd today. 600 people. Hello. Hello, folks. Daily time. Let's do it. Prankster Callista Burn? Sounds fun. Trap-pa-pa-pa. Click-P. I'll turn the volume back on. Wow, that's so broken. Great way to show off the card. Just give you 2 in your starting hand. That'll be good. What the heck is that? Would rather have my 3/3. Next tier list probably gonna be. It's probably gonna be Sneaky, then Brainy, then Beastie Land. Boink. Smarty, did I say Brainy? It would be Sneaky, Brainy, Sneaky, Smarty, Sneaky, Smarty, Beastie. Then we'll do Heroes or something. Cards. Much cards. What the heck is this? I'll do one for the pre-made decks. That'll be fun. I was planning on doing that like a year ago when they made a new patch. The Nightbot? The Nightbot is like the moderator bot I have. We'll do tribes. We'll do all the tribes. It'll be fun. PvP. Whoa, I'm zonked from that tier list. It takes a lot. Takes a lot of energy. Move Raw to S tier. Hernan. Complete the missions. I still haven't finished the single player in this game. I don't feel like it. Fan-made cards. I could see them. I don't have a lot of time to like review fan-made cards though, unfortunately. Like you can share them in the chat though. Put a link to the Reddit post. People will check it out. Maybe I'll check it out briefly. If you have like one in particular you think would be a great idea, maybe I'll take a look at that. But just like a long list of fan-made cards, I'm not gonna. I don't have time to. I'm sorry. I think we'll go on the grounds. Hopefully it doesn't have rumble. My in-game name is Fry'em Up. All one word, no capitals. You're showing me a cruiser deck. But again, I've seen this deck before. This deck is a big hot mess. It's running kings that are not good. Supernova Gargs that are very below average. This isn't a good deck, guys. I don't know why Reddit thinks this is a good idea. Professor Brainstorm is overall the best zombie here. Hopefully Spikeweeds. That would be sweet. This boy better not be hacking. It's not bad, actually. 3 damage to face and block one of his guys. This might be the best thing we could have gotten there. What would be better? I think it's better than, like, Moonwalker, which is 1 extra damage to face. This really was probably the best one in this situation. I'll do a class tier list. I'll probably do that before the hero tier list. Oh ho! I smell hacks. Oh. This is turn 3. Summoning would be the best one. Amazing. Nuts and berries. Flamenco. Wow. He's hacking? He's actually hacking. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the man is officially hacking. I think we're okay here. Hopefully he doesn't get rumble. It's not the end of the world. It's nice that he doesn't block first. Easy! Oh, he's so dead. It's actually, it's guaranteed lethal. Is it? No, we're 1 off. Oh, oh, oh. Da, 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 da. Eater. Yes! Oh, I can't play it. That's okay. It's guaranteed lethal. Easy. Get wrecked. Con man OP. This is what he got from our Astrocado too. He's not running from our free kick. He's just running quick things. You don't think he was hacking? Oh, okay. Alright, get wrecked, freaking hacker. It's so sad he can hack in this game and nothing happens. I don't care. He played 4 click piece. I'm still hacking. Boom fries? Aw. Oh wow. You uncrafted a Valk for 4 haunted pumpkins and you got 4,000 gems. Wow. Buy premium packs for sure. Amazing. So cool. What fun deck are we doing? Banana Conjure? Dash man. Bad cards and leap. Good luck. That's okay, Boom Fries. I'm happy I helped you. Nice to have you. Oh, I'm so out of it from doing a tier list. I gotta go after this game. La 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 la. Oh ho! Wow. How do you not get bored of this game? It's fun. Easy. There's so many decks. The thing is, I've been making every week, making 5 to 6 new decks a week for years, and we still haven't ran out of ideas. I still have a document, a Google Doc, with like 1,000 ideas on it. I have at least 100 more ideas just written down that I can come back to anytime I want. And I'm gaining them. I can't do all of them because I'm gaining ideas faster than I can play them. This is gonna be good. Alright. Well, he has running janitor. Please roll a tune. God damn it. Ugh. You want to see all the deck ideas? I'll show them to you every day for at least until the end of 2020. I'll show you a new deck every day. How about that? How about that idea? Oh my gosh, it's Bucket Bay. My banana soul is wrapped round. The boots. It costs 5. Okay. Prime up, thank you so much for helping me through my depression. Aw, it means so much to me that I help people in these weird ways I'm not even aware of. I'm so happy I can help people through whatever they're doing. It really means a lot to me when people say things like that, because I don't realize, you know. We 5 cost 6/6. Sonic fan? It rings for 200, by the way. You got 3 click fees during the daily. Yeah, today's daily. The fact they start you off with 2 click fees, just like rip. Did you just rocket that? Oh, it's Battle Cruiser. See? Look how I'm doing. He's doing 0 damage to me this turn. I'm doing 8. It's not a good card. Oh. Close. The Super Power tier list will be up tomorrow morning. I'm gonna have that published for first thing in the morning. I'm so cute. Look at me. I'm so cute. I've just been working out and dieting, and I like the way I look now. I can see the difference in my face. My cheeks are slightly less chubby now. La 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 la. Oh ho ho ho. Oh, we're gonna break some teeth. Battle cremation station. Guys. I think for my next tier list, for garbage tier, I'm gonna call it cremation station. Such a great idea. I should have called it Bucket Bay for today. That's what I should have called it. I really should have. Instant regret. Wow. Why did I not think of calling the garbage tier just Bucket Bay? You don't get them all, you know? You don't get them all. Smash Bros. Ultimate. Alright guys, I will see you tonight. We're going to play some Legends of Runeterra. If you haven't checked out that game, it's a fun one. Bucket Bay. freaking bucket bay. Alright, guys. I will see you tonight. Have a great day. That was fun.